ESPN Google Plus Hangout. I'm Mike Hill. I'll be your facilitator for today's forum. Excited to be here to talk about ESPN and the Walt Disney Company creating career opportunities for those returning to civilian life through our Hiring of Heroes initiative. This is something that's big for me as well because I'm a veteran as well. We've got a great panel of guests here today, including John Walsh. He's the Executive Vice President and Executive Editor. Also have Sage Steele, just co-anchored SportsCenter with her. She's one of the best SportsCenter anchors that's out there. Great personality, great talent as well. She's also a military brat. I don't think she minds me saying that because she's the daughter of a military member. Rod Wingfield, he's the Director of Global Diversity and Inclusion for the Walt Disney Company. And we got Kevin Preston, who is a retired Army colonel. He is the Director of Veterans Initiatives in the Walt Disney Company. Lady, gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Good to be here, Mikey.
Happy to have everybody here. Hey, Rod, let's start off with you. Give us a little background about the Heroes Work Here program, how it got started, and the vision you have for it.
Sure. Well, first of all, welcome everyone to the call. And our Heroes Work Here program was launched last March by our Chairman and CEO, Bob Iger, and it was launched at our shareholder meeting. And this program really continues our longstanding support for the military, but with much more of an emphasis on hiring, attracting, and then retaining great talent from the veteran community. In addition to that, we also, as a company, have invested significantly in nonprofit organizations that also help veterans in making the transition from military to civilian roles. And then finally, we launched a public awareness campaign over the past year that's been playing on ESPN and that public awareness campaign is all about encouraging other employers to hire veterans as well.
Kevin, let's go to you now. What's your role in all of this?
Hello, Mike. The role I have is the title is Director of Veterans Initiatives for the Walt Disney Company. And Rod and I work very close on this enterprise, and really is to facilitate the hiring of veterans into the Walt Disney Company. We do that a number of ways. Last year we did 3 expos, actually about 1 year ago, that we made this program, Heroes Work Here, public. But a lot of what we do is kind of unique, whereas we teach inside Disney recruiters and hiring managers and leaders about the military. And then externally, we coach veterans on the process to gain employment. And that coaching concerns resumes and interview techniques, how to build a network, and how to transition from the military into another career follow-up.
John, you've been here since 1988, so you've been here for a while. Why is it so important to have former military members as part of our team here? Can John hear me?
Support the military. We've traveled overseas. We've been on aircraft carriers. We've been to West Point. We've now made Veterans Day weekend into a big celebration of sports in the military. So it's become a really important initiative within the company. And we'll have some announcements later in the year that's going to increase our dedication to the military.
Certainly looking forward to those announcements as well. Sage, with your military background, your family being in the military, I kid when I say military brat, but give us an idea of what former military members will have in store for them when they come and work for ESPN.
Well, it's the worldwide leader in sports. I think we all agree on that. However, it's so much more than that. It truly is like a family atmosphere. I will say this, my dad was a 24-year Army officer, a West Point grad, and we lived at West Point when I was a kid. He went back there to coach football, and fast forward then to I think it was 2008 or 2009 when we first took SportsCenter on the road to West Point. That was our first stop, as John Walsh just mentioned, and the pride that my father and his classmates from 1970 and the cadets at West Point, active duty, formerly, just the feedback, and John, I know you can speak to this as well, was absolutely tremendous. And until that point, I don't think that people truly realized how committed ESPN is to its veterans, and that was proof. It's a lot of money to put on those shows and to bring the crews there and do live television, but ESPN is committed to it, and every year it's a huge deal. That's obviously the show portion of it, but just everyday life here. I don't know, very, very supportive. A lot of people who don't even fully understand what it's like to be in the military or to be the daughter of an Army officer. Just there's curiosity, and they truly want to learn and want to know about it. So for me, it's an honor, and I didn't do anything compared to you guys and you know, Mike, your veteran, Kevin, but just to have a small part of it. Trust me, working at ESPN, worldwide leader, is so much more than just sports. It's a family atmosphere, and they support those veterans like no other company I've ever worked at.
I will concur, and you have done a lot since you have been here as well. John, let's go back to that because you brought it up about what ESPN has done on a yearly basis, taking SportsCenter on the road. What has the feedback been with that initiative that we started a couple of years ago?
It's overwhelmingly positive. The crowds are astonishingly encouraging. Being on site, whether it's in a war zone or it's on a carrier, no matter where we've gone, no matter what we've done, the feedback is universally positive, and the creative energy that's around this. We have a team of people who think about this year-round and think about ideas and new places to go and new experiences, and every year I think we've increased the ambition level of what we've done, and we intend to keep doing that.
Hey, Kevin, I want to talk to you about this because being here at ESPN for the past 9 years myself, one thing that I can look at ESPN and that kind of reminds me of the military is that sense of unity. We are a big team here. Everybody has to come together for one common cause. Have you found that out to be the same case since you've been here?
You know, it's interesting, Mike, because once again, I spent 28 years in the Army. That was my entire adult career. So I left the military, and coming to a brand new organization like ESPN, I had a good idea what I would see, but I was pleasantly surprised to see so many of the military values that exist in ESPN, and you alluded to a few of them. I mean, the teamwork environment, much exactly like the military. There's a focus on the job, or as they call it in the military, the mission. People want to help people out and make sure the team does well. So when you see those things coming into an organization, you feel really comfortable because, once again, that's how we operate in the military, and that's what I did for 28 years. So it made for a very nice transition.
And you've made the transition well. Rod, talk about the future, where we want to go. I know you talked about the vision a little bit. John kind of alluded to, I guess he's not going to give us all the secrets yet about what we have in store as far as the Veterans Initiative is concerned, but kind of give us an idea of what may be in the future when it comes to this initiative.
Sure. Well, even as recently as a couple months ago, our chairman and CEO, Bob Iger, was able to announce some really great news at our shareholder meeting about the initiative. You guys remember, and for those of you who haven't heard about our initiative, our hiring initiative was a commitment to hire 1,000 veterans over the next 3 years between 2012 and 2015. Well, I'm pleased to say we have blown through that goal. In less than a year, we had already hit our 1,000 mark of hires. And so Bob, 2 months ago, announced that our new commitment as a company is to add another 1,000 hires over the next 2 years. So our Veterans Initiative is thriving across all the segments, and especially at ESPN, where there is so much ground support on the ground in all your locations that are desirous of hiring veterans and leveraging their skills.
Hey, John, I'm pretty sure I know we got a lot of veterans that's now watching this forum right now, and they probably want to know, how can they get a job, an opportunity here at ESPN? What would you tell them?
Well, I tell them the same thing I tell a lot of employees. The first exercise I think you go through is to decide on what things you like to do, and watching sports doesn't count. You have to be a little bit above that. What do you like to do that would translate into a job? And then you take it to the next step, and the next step is, what are your passions? What are you really passionate about? If you went to work every day and you did this, you go home and say, man, that was a great day. Then you take the passion and say, okay, how do I translate that passion into the skills? In my life, what are the skills that people have said, you know what, Mike, Sage, whoever, you do that really well. And you ought to concentrate on that because that's something you're really good at. Then you take that and you develop it into what kind of expertise do you have in that area, because that's really important. To work at ESPN, Sage and Mike especially know, it's all about sports. And if you're a sports fan, the experience is heightened. If you're an avid sports fan, it's a heck of a lot more fun. We get a lot of people who come to the Bristol campus And we tour them around, and they say, John, why is everybody smiling? I said, because they're making their living doing something about sports. And that's a lot of fun because you grew up with sports. Then you take that expertise and you decide on what's the depth of that and how can I go deeper, and then you get learning skills. What are the things that I need to learn to make my depth greater, to make my expertise more valuable to the organization? And we have ways of training people through rookie boot camp. We have an extensive interview process by which we can tell, hey, here's where you belong, or here's what might work out for you here, or maybe it's not right for you. I think going through that exercise will determine and let you focus on perhaps very specific jobs that might be posted, that might be available.
Yeah, and I want to follow up on what John said, because when you wake up in the morning, it's great, and I can say that when I wake up in the morning, I can say I have the best job in the world. I love doing what I do. I have a passion for what I do, and I just thank God that I can actually make a living at doing it. And Sage, I know you hear the same questions all the time, whether it be through Twitter, email, phone calls, or just in the streets. People that love sports, they just feel like they can do the same thing that we do. What is some of the advice that you give?
To get, you mean broadcasting-wise, to get achieve your dream and be on SportsCenter?
How can I become an ESPN anchor? What do I need to do? What do you tell them?
Well, again, worldwide leader in sports, and you don't get there overnight. I started in a really small market, actually medium-sized, I guess, technically, South Bend, Indiana, and I knew I wanted to be a sportscaster since I was in the 8th grade. I announced it at the dinner table, and my parents, my brothers were like, oh, okay, that's cute, we'll see. And long story short, it took 5 different jobs before I got to ESPN, and I wouldn't trade that. Everybody, when you're young, and Mikey, you and I are not young anymore. We're old people in the business, and
yes,
when you're young,
you are.
Okay, thank you. Good answer.
Don't give away the secret, Sage.
But when we always are so quick, we want to get there so quickly. We want to get to the top as quickly as humanly possible. And now, in hindsight, I'm so thankful that ESPN told me I wasn't good enough for a long time. And they said it in a very good, constructive way, because they want the best of the best. And those experiences that I went through, good and bad, in really small markets, South Bend, some crazy jobs, writing, shooting, editing, producing, all of the above, and then in Indianapolis, and then in Tampa, and then at another job in Tampa, then in Washington, D.C., and Baltimore. There's no way I would have made it to ESPN if it hadn't been for those experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So my advice is to go, start small, get your feet wet, do everything anyone asks you to do, because then when you get there, number one, if people say, oh yeah, look at their idea, that was easy. I'm like, oh no. Let me tell you what it took. And number two, more importantly, you have a full appreciation for those people around you. Mike, you and I are the ones that get the credit because we're the faces and the voices that people hear and see. But the people behind the scenes, the hundreds of people that it takes to work on one show, they're the reason why. And so having gone through all of those things on lower levels for no money, waiting tables at night to make ends meet,
there you go.
That makes you fully appreciative of what everybody else around you is doing. So I say start small, never say no. And most importantly, this is what I learned from the military. Sorry to get cheesy on you guys, but Kevin, you probably know this too. Part of the cadet prayer at West Point is help me to choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really, really hard to do things that you don't want to do and they're annoying. Easier to take that shortcut, isn't it? But I'm so thankful now that my dad made me memorize that darn thing, me and my brothers, because it has just, it's so true. If you do the harder right, you never regret it later. And in the end, it worked, and I was able to achieve my dream to host SportsCenter.
Exactly, and Kevin, like Sage said, I think one thing about being in the military is that we have gone through a lot, and we had to work to get to a certain rank or a certain status within the military, and once again, that teamwork aspect that comes along with it. So it has prepared us for life, not only at ESPN, but in corporate America. How do you think being in the military prepares you for life here at ESPN, though, Kevin?
Well, it's interesting, Mike. Probably the most common question I get when I'm out talking to veterans is, how did you get ESPN? How did you get to Walt Disney Company? And much like what Sage said, it was a long process for me, and quite literally, it was about 5 years. When I was a major in the Army, I've always admired what this company does, what ESPN does, and I really set out to try to figure out how do I get a job in this company, because I know my military career is going to end at some point. And it started off by quite literally cold calling people within the corporation, asking, will you talk to me? I want to learn how this process works. I want to learn about the culture of the company. I finally found a person who was willing to talk to me, and in professional recruiting, we're still friends today, but that built, and this was going on for 5 years. Over 5 years, I built a network that evolved into relationships. And I always say a network sounds like a self-serving term. So these were relationships that just emerged. And during that whole 5 years, I never asked for a job. All I did was talk to people about the business and common interests that we had. And we found there's a lot of things we both liked. And I learned from them. And they gave me great advice. They gave me educational advice. They gave me advice on the resume, and just kind of, helped shape me in this process. And once again, none of us knowing where it was going to go. So after about 5 or 6 years of doing this, I get to the point where I'm a colonel in my career, and I'm down at Disney, quite literally doing the marathon and stopping in to see my friends. That's all it was. It was a, hello, how are you? It's nice to see you, and how is the family? And somebody mentioned this new program at Disney called Heroes Work Here. And that was the door, but it came through these colleagues that I made over 5 or 6 years. So the one thing I tell veterans is never, never, never overlook the aspect of building a network, because people want to help you.
Yes.
You're a soldier, you're in the military, people want to help you be successful. You just got to stand up there and ask for the help.
And you always hear that. I know it's a cliche, but it's not necessarily what you know, but who you know. And when I'm talking to students, when I'm talking to anyone that wants to get into this business, I say network, network, network. Meet everybody, talk to everybody, get their business cards, because you never know when you're going to run into a John Walsh who has high influence at ESPN that can help you at least get your foot through the door. Rod, I want you to expound on that a little bit.
Sure. So I'll just pick up where Kevin left off, because I was the person who was calling around the company to all my colleagues when we announced and started working on the Heroes Work Here program. And I said the first hire I would like us to have is a military veteran who has some HR experience and has done recruiting and can really help veterans with translating their skills. And as Kevin alluded to, he had been in touch with folks in Florida. I got a call from one of my recruiting buddies down in Florida, and she said, hey, listen, I just interviewed, I've known this guy for a long time, and I've interviewed him in the past, and I would actually like to introduce him to you. His name's Kevin Preston. He's about to retire. And as it turned out, Kevin became our first hire of the Heroes Work Here program. And what he brought with him then was this training that he goes out and helps veterans understand some of the challenges they can expect to encounter around military skills translation and translating your experience from a military to a civilian resume, and then interview prep skills as well. And just so you know, and I know later on we'll put this up there or talk about it, we've taken what he does on the road with veterans and we've actually put it on our website. So if you're a veteran who's interested in taking advantage of some of these tips, later on we'll talk more about how you can get that kind of support online on our career site.
You're going to put that on the website later? What's the website address?
All anyone has to do is log into DisneyCareers.com. And in the lower right-hand box, you'll see a box that says Casting for Veterans. And it's really meant to stand out there so that folks know. You click on that, and that's going to lead you to a variety of resources, whether it's interview skills, whether it's resume building, or if you just want to search for jobs at ESPN and other companies, at Walt Disney Company, that's a great avenue to start. And from there, you can start to put your career transition plan into play.
It's a great website, and everybody should log on that's looking for a job here at ESPN. Also, I know a lot of people are listening in and watching us during this chat. If you have any questions, there's a box that you can put your questions in, and we'll try and get to many of those questions throughout this chat as we go along in this process. I want to get back to John, because there are a lot of different jobs. A lot of people look at me and Sage and they say we want to do what they do because we're the faces of the network, and they feel like, oh, they got the glamorous positions. But you know, John, there are a lot of different positions. I think we got about 7,000 jobs here at ESPN now, if I'm not mistaken.
We have 7,000 jobs, Mike, and one of the great things about my 26 years at the company is I've had about 14 different jobs in 9 different offices, and have been able to operate in television with segments, shows, launching networks, radio, internet, digital, magazine, books, administration, and all of those mediums have a menu or a suite of job opportunities. It's not just, as you said, and Sage said, it's not just the people who are the faces and the voices of ESPN. There are producers, there are production assistants, there are researchers, there are camera people, there are a large variety of jobs. Some of them, most of them, 4,500 or so located in Bristol, but another 2,500 or so located throughout the world. There's international. We have a growing office in Los Angeles now. We've launched a whole bunch of, we've launched some new websites. We now have a really strong 30 for 30 film, documentary film unit. We launched a tremendous website called Grantland 2 years ago. So there's always something going on here. And one of the great things about the company is we're not afraid to take risks. We know how to learn from failure, and we know when it's time to celebrate success. But if you look around and that's why I said what I said earlier, is find out what you are passionate about, where your skills translate, and look to those different mediums to see if there's something that might be right for you.
And you know, and Kevin, you can talk about this, because when I was in the military and I would tell people I was in the Air Force, they just automatically assumed I flew planes. And I'm like, the only plane I ever flew in was coach, because I couldn't fly first class. And I definitely wasn't in anybody's cockpit at any time. So just kind of talk more about what John was talking about, the different types of jobs that we have here. And they're not necessarily just studio jobs. There are jobs that behind the scenes, you can be an assistant to an executive. There are so many different jobs here at ESPN.
Well, you're right. There's this entire array of opportunities. And one thing I encourage veterans to do is you got to put in your due diligence, like Sage said, your due diligence to research the place where you want to go and find out what they stand for, what kind of jobs they have, what kind of opportunities they have. And that Disney career site that Rod mentioned, you can sit there quite literally and read through hundreds of job announcements and look at ESPN jobs and start to learn the language, a bit about the culture, a bit about the job opportunities. So get specifically back into the jobs. I mean, you kind of divide these things between business operations and then the production side of ESPN. And the veteran needs to look at what they're doing and say, which side do I fit in? Do you like the world of human resources or staffing or facilities or securities? Or do you want to go more towards, kind of those core competencies of ESPN? And the nice thing is, the military, and I tell veterans this, I said there are such a wide array of skills in the military that transfer directly over to any business out there. You just got to package and wrap your brand, your representation, the right way to tell people what you can do.
Yeah, well, and sometimes you just can't walk out of the military and walk right into the door of the civilian world. There are some adjustments that we all have to make, taking off that uniform and going into the civilian world. What are some of the adjustments you think they have to make here at ESPN?
Well, I'll take one step back on that. The first thing I advise veterans on is look at the values you have in the military, because if you've been in 4 years or 6 years or spent a long time in, the military has taught you a core set of values like integrity and honor and commitment. Those values do not go away when you take the uniform off. So the first piece of advice is try to find an organization that represents those values. That will increase the comfort of the fit upon where you're going. Once you do that, you can kind of align those two things. I would offer that your tenure there is going to be quite long, because there's that values match. And you're going to feel comfortable in the environment. You're going to be around people that are like-minded and have similar philosophies in the way they go about business and go about working. However, when you come to ESPN, you're not in the military anymore. And that's the first thing you got to accept. You are not in the military anymore. I am not a colonel anymore. People call me that jokingly sometimes. I say, look, my name's Kevin. I hung up the colonel rank about 14 months ago. So, A, accept you're not in the military anymore. B, seek knowledge and be flexible. People want to help you and want to see you be successful. So seek out these people. Find yourself a mentor. Find a veteran mentor if you can. Somebody who's served in the military, who's been in the company for a while, and they'll be happy to walk you through the process and help you with that culture and that transition.
So if you're not a colonel anymore, how come you make me salute you every time I see you when I walk by? I mean,
that's just between you and I, Mike.
Oh, okay, all right. I just saw that. Hey, once again, we got some questions out in the chat too. This is from Josh on Google Plus. I guess Rod or Kevin, you can answer this question. When is a good time to start inquiring about positions? He said, for example, he retired in 2015. He retires in 2015, and he's looking to make use of his mass communication degree he recently completed.
I'll go ahead and start off, Rod, and you want to chime in afterwards? The advice I would offer, and first of all, use time as your ally. Use time as your ally. Because right now you know when your departure date is from the military, plus or minus a couple of months. You can almost pinpoint on a calendar. When I left the military, I knew to the day when my time hacks were. I knew 3 years time in grade is 06 exactly. So let time be your ally. Now during this time when you have these several months in front of you, start to build your network, find the organization that aligns with your values, do your research, seek out people to help you in this process, build your resume, test drive your resume, go through the process of interviews, test drive all these skills. So that when you get to the point of leaving the military, you have a resume done, you have your education done, you've done some interviews so you feel comfortable, there's a network built for you out there that wants to help you, and you can do all that on the front side before you leave the military.
Right. And I would only add on to that once you've decided kind of what area you want to work in terms of functionally, look at the companies that align to your values and leverage the normal sourcing social media tools out there. You know, VetNet is a great one, or LinkedIn is a great tool to use just to scour the web for folks that work at Disney or folks that work at ESPN if you want to connect with someone. And usually, folks may not have a lot of time if they're on their day job to be able to go back and forth, but sometimes they can connect you to other people that are directly in the departments or areas you have an interest in working in.
John, let's go back to you. Since I've been here for the last 9 years, this place has grown tremendously, not just from a physical aspect with the different buildings, but with all the sports that we cover, the networks that we did, the Longhorn networks, and I think we just announced on SportsCenter today that we have come to a 20-year agreement with the SEC network as well for a different network as well. What does that mean for job growth here at ESPN?
Well, obviously, we're launching something, and we'll be in a hiring phase we'll phase in a certain number of months before we're ready to go on air on the SEC network. We've launched under Stephanie Drewley a very successful production operation, and Dave Brown down in Austin, Texas with the Longhorn network. We continue to look where there are opportunities for us in the future. We are a company that has been aggressive since 1979. And we've been aggressive in the acquisition of licensing rights for telecasting sporting events. We've been aggressive about launching new mediums. We've been aggressive within those mediums of launching diverse opportunities, whether they be different networks, different shows, different websites. We now have a burgeoning business in podcasting, which is in my opinion, one of the real bright aspects of the future of radio. So when you come to ESPN, you look around because something new is going to be popping up pretty much right after you get there.
Yes, for sure. That's definitely for sure. And Sage, you've seen it grow over the last 6 years. You've been here for 6 years now. Give an idea. One of the things I like about the growth here is that we hire a lot of different people, but the quality never seems to go down. And you talked about the different people that don't get the credit on the sports centers, on the NFL Lives, on the radio, on .com. Talk about the quality of people that we have here as well, and what you expect if somebody comes and gets a job at ESPN.
If someone gets a job, they just need to be ready to bring it. I think in any business, in any industry, competition is one of the best things. ESPN has some competition out there. However, there's competition within the ranks here as well, because as the shows get bigger and the positions get more and more important, it's like a pyramid. There's that many. It's tougher and tougher for people to break into that. So you have to bring your A game. Sorry for the horrible cliche, but it's true, because if you're not willing to give it 110% every day, there'll be another person in here, whether it's someone right out of college who's hungry and willing to do whatever it takes, or someone, our age, 40s or older, who's just 40? I don't know.
Oh, I mean.
Yeah, I've accepted it, Mike. It's okay. I've accepted it.
I
No, but it's just, I love the competitive aspect here, and it's, you know, hey, it's a healthy competition, because at the end of the day, we're all on the same team, and you can liken that to many of your military experiences for those of you out here listening to this chat. But the ultimate goal is to put the best product on our airwaves, and therefore it is a selective process as to who gets to participate, if that's the right word, on every single level. And as I said, the number of people, the manpower it takes to put one show on the air, to me, is mind-boggling. And John, how many shows are live on our air every single day? I mean, we've got SportsCenter all throughout the day and night on just ESPN, much less ESPN News, ESPN2, ESPNU. It's amazing to me. So just, if you say you want to come, great. When you get here, be ready to work.
There's a big volume out here, and we produce 40,000 hours of live television a year. We publish the equivalent of the Sunday New York Times daily on our website, and we have over 700 affiliates, radio affiliates, that are 24/7. And now we are occupying a large share of the digital market, so we have yet another medium where we produce plenty of content.
Yeah, I mean, just talk about that growth. I mean, because everybody looks at ESPN and they automatically just look at the television side, maybe the radio, but now that we're in the internet, something that you're very familiar with, that you helped launch, ESPN, the magazine, is another opportunity for other people out there.
2.1 million readers every 2 weeks, or 2.1 million subscribers, and 15 million readers every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing. I got another question from Patrick on Google Plus. What is the market like for backpack video journalists at ESPN, John?
We are just developing that. We've started it in the last couple of years. I'm not as conversant about it, so I shouldn't really be talking about it. I know that we have stepped into it, and we're utilizing it. We are not as refined or sophisticated or nuanced as we will be about it, but yes, it's on our plate, and we're engaging in it.
For those who, like, I'm ignorant to this fact, what is backpack video journalist? I mean, I've been in this business for 18, 19. I have no idea what that means, John.
And again, I'm not as conversant, but we're teaching our producers and our talent to have small cameras that they can go out and they can, if they see something that's worthwhile, that they can shoot it, and we're translating it into television, and it's in a rough form, that the pictures aren't quite as as sophisticated as the very mature cameras, but it's a step up from the photos and the video on your cell phone.
Yeah, that's what they call video journalists. And back in my day, used to call that one-man banding. I think they still do that in the business as well. This is from Joe on Google, and I think, Kevin, you can answer this one, and Rod as well. Will Disney start making recruiting visits to military bases? Are you already doing that, or what's the deal there?
Yes, we do go out to military bases. We primarily go out to the transition programs. Every base conducts some form of a transition assistance program. And we take opportunities to go out there and talk to the veterans in that process, about Disney, about ESPN, about the process of getting jobs. So yes, that's currently going on. I don't know if Rod, if you want to add on to that any.
Just that if anyone's out there interested in having us visit, we are happy to come visit your base. There's absolutely no charge to do that. We are happy to bring some of the coaching and the classwork that Kevin teaches around interviewing skills. So please let us know.
Where are we going from here, guys? Rod, where do we go from here? I mean, in the immediate future, what's the 10-year plan?
One of the things we just recently did was, now that we've had such great startup success with the veteran hiring program, we wanted to feature some of our current veteran employees that we hired through Heroes Work Here. So ESPN and several other segments, the Walt Disney Parks, the studio, selected some of those veterans to be featured in the most recent public awareness announcement. And you guys will be able to check that out on the Heroes Work Here website, and we'll flash that up before the end of the call today and check it out. So one of the other things that we're looking at doing is how we also partner across the country with other successful companies in encouraging yet more companies to do hiring of veterans. So we're putting together some plans around how we share some of the successes and some of the lessons learned, especially with smaller or medium-sized companies that may not have the resources and the experience in the area of hiring veterans. And then we're going to continue doing outreach to organizations like USA Cares and the Mission Continues. These organizations do a great service to veterans in that they help them with transitioning to the civilian community in terms of jobs. So whether it's getting financial help to be able to get to an interview location, or whether it's giving them actual apprenticeship opportunities like the Mission Continues does, they have been wonderful, wonderful partners, and we want to continue a long-term relationship with them. So they're also listed on the resource page of our Heroes Work Here website.
And Mike, there's one thing I want to toss into that a cornerstone of this program, and I tried to operate this way in my military career with soldiers, is I felt you help people one person at a time. And we're approaching Heroes Work Here of helping one veteran at a time. That's very personal help. We're not going to stand in front of 1,000 people and try to, sway views. We're going to touch one person, and quite literally, the form that takes is if you want resume coaching, you'll get personal resume coaching. If you want to go through a mock phone interview, you'll get a mock phone interview. And you'll talk to a person that's going to help you as an individual person in this process to transition out of the military into your next phase of life.
All right, before we wrap things up here, I want to ask one more question to each and every one of you. Sage, to start with you ladies first. For somebody that's in the military presently or a former military that's looking for a career at ESPN, what's the word that you would give to them? What's the message that you would give to them?
I would say that it's an honor. Really, it's an honor for me to work here, to have achieved my dream. But I also feel like it's an honor to represent my dad, who gave his service to the Army for 24 years, and West Point before that, and prep school before that, and his dad was an Army officer as well. And I, in this part of the country as well, there are more and more veterans, but here at ESPN, we've seen the numbers really climb up, and I have people come up to me all the time and say, hey, thank your dad for your service. And for me, it's an honor to be able to kind of represent a little bit out there the other brats around the world who have had their standards set very high by our families, but also by here at ESPN, and to get out there and show people that hard work, doing things the right way, really does pay off, and the support that we receive here is unlike any other place. I grew up my whole life moving, living in different countries. I mean, all over. I've never called anywhere home, ever, because I've never been anywhere for more than a couple years. This is the longest I've lived anywhere in my life. I have 3 kids. We love raising our family here, and so it's an honor to feel like I'm home, I guess, for the first time ever.
Yeah, and it's on that point, I mean, everybody looks at ESPN and they automatically assume you have to work in Bristol, Connecticut. Well, for the most of us, we live and work here in Bristol, Connecticut, but we got sites all over. We got
it's all over.
Charlotte, and now in LA. We got different bureaus as well, so it's not necessarily that you have to come and live in Connecticut as well. Rod, the same question I asked Sage, your advice to your final word to any of the veterans out there listening who wanted a career at ESPN, what to expect?
Think about it in the long term, and be patient. Sometimes the first time you apply for a job, you may get the thank you note and then not a lot else. I've been there too, so I know how that feels. But have persistence. You're talking about the worldwide leader of sports. There's a lot of people interested, and so in working at ESPN. So have that grit and determination. And as Kevin suggested, try to leverage your network connections. As ESPN continues to grow, it's going to become increasingly more difficult for someone not to know someone that works at ESPN. So as you leverage your network more, eventually you'll probably land in the right place.
All right, Kevin.
I'll offer this to veterans: dream big and win big. Dream big and win big. When you're in the military, you were the best at what you did. ESPN is the best at what they do. Don't shortchange yourself on a dream. If you want ESPN, you go after that with all your effort and all your passion, all your energy, just like you did doing something in the military. Apply that same planning, that same passion, and that same goal-directed behavior, and eventually you will get your goal. Don't shortchange yourself. Dream big and win big.
I like that. John, final word.
About getting the job, I would say be really prepared when you're applying, and by that I mean know the company, demonstrate how much you know the company, tell the person you're interviewing what you think the company does well, where they're challenged. Be curious with intelligent questions that demonstrate that you understand the DNA of the company. Be strategic, be prepared, be focused, and be ready to work hard.
All right, guys, and I'll add on to what Kevin had to say is dream big, think big, get the job, be prepared. Everything that you use, all the values that were instilled in you while you were in the military, use those same values, that same guidance, that same energy to try and get that job. And once again, don't worry about that first rejection. Just makes it, use it as motivation to try and get that job this second time around. So I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank everybody that was listening and watching on our Google Hangout here today. I want to thank Rod Wingfield, Director of Global Diversity and Inclusion at Walt Disney Company, John Walsh, the Executive Vice President and Executive Editor, Sage Steele, my fellow SportsCenter anchor, and Kevin Preston, a retired Army Colonel. I salute you still, and Director of Veterans Initiative for the Walt Disney Company. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Website real quick, John, Mike?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Great. I think they're gonna throw it up there in a minute. But if for any reason someone can't see it, just check out DisneyCareers.com. It's an easy URL to remember.
All right. Had a great time. Look forward to doing this again with you guys.